When you get Xfinity Internet, Flex is included free, and finding what to watch on TV is now as easy as popcorn. This is a way better way to watch.
Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to get a great offer on Internet and add Flex for free. Restrictions apply.
Hacking, data, and identity theft are causing devastating problems. Globex Data is the solution for privacy and security in the digital world. Switzerland has the world's strictest privacy laws, and Globex Data's Swiss-hosted platform is outside of big tech with no data mining. Globex Data is now launching in the USA, offering email and messaging privacy and security to all Americans. Globex Data Limited, stock trading symbol SWISF, web address globexdatagroup.com.
The proceeding may contain forward-looking statements which may not be realized.
This is CBS, Eye on the World. I'm John Batchelor. I welcome Brad Bowman. Brad is Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. We turn to, most recently, the meeting between the President of the United States and the new Prime Minister of Israel to discuss the alliance, the way forward, especially with the turmoil in the Middle East and in Central Asia. I read from a news item in these last days. Defense Minister Benny Gantz of the State of Israel said Israel and the United States had restored intelligence ties and were working to develop a Plan B if the stalled talks between Washington and Tehran regarding a fresh Iran nuclear deal sputter out. I turn from that to Brad's reporting because not only intelligence sharing, but hardware and software sharing is a major focus of a powerful committee. It's a Senate committee. Its shorthand, Brad teaches me, is SASC. Brad, a very good evening to you. What is SASC and what is it doing to promote this alliance between the U.S. and Israel, especially with regard to the threat? Good evening to you.
Good evening to you, John. It's a pleasure to join you again to discuss this issue. Yeah, the Congress organizes itself, as some of your listeners may know, by a number of committees of oversight. And each of these committees, for the most part, they have particular federal departments of the federal government that they're responsible for overseeing. They authorize their budgets, they set policy, and then their corollaries among the appropriators actually appropriate the funds. And so the Department of Defense is overseen by the Senate Armed Services Committee, or SASC, and the House Armed Services Committee, or HASC. And these two committees play a very important authorizing and policy role. And in fact, the House Armed Services Committee, HASC, is actually conducting their markup, which is to say the development of their annual defense bill today. And some of these issues that we may discuss are in play.
And SASC is looking to strengthen the relationship with Israel. I didn't know any of this wasn't happening. So let's use an example that you give us about the Israeli innovations in the great big beasts called tanks. What I learned from you is that in 2011, Israel adjusted the tank for a superior use on the battlefield, but it didn't come to the United States, these adjustments, these software and hardware innovations, until 2019. Is that purposeful, or is that just the nature of bureaucracies?
John, I'm so glad you highlighted that anecdote, and I've used that honestly repeatedly now for about 2 years. Because the second someone like me comes along and says, hey, Israel's a great ally and partner, we should work more closely with them, people automatically assume that you're not aware of all the things we already do with Israel. You mentioned the intelligence sharing. That's already robust. Our National Guard works with, the IDF. We do tons together on missile defense. We have exercises together. We do a ton. But anyone who would defend the status quo as not improvable, I like to highlight for them this anecdote that you just mentioned with the active protection system. So active protection systems, or systems, particularly the Trophy Active Protection System, is a system that the Israelis developed and fielded operationally in 2011 that will basically can sense an incoming rocket or mortar and then blasts outward from the tank or armored vehicle and intercepts that rocket or mortar in flight before it actually hits the vehicle. It's a pretty impressive technology that really only the Israelis or Russians had at that point. And I'm told that, then Army Chief of Staff General Milley went to Israel at one point, and the Israelis demonstrated this capability to him, and he got out of the vehicle that I'm told they fired an inert round at. I'm not sure if that's true, and basically became a 4-star action officer saying, hey, we need to get this. So in 2019, 8 years after the Israelis had already fielded it, the U.S. Army got it, put it on their M1 Abrams tanks, And then you had American M1 Abrams tanks with Israeli active protection system technology in Europe deterring Russian aggression. How about that? And so, some people say, oh, that's wonderful. Great. We worked with Israeli partners to address a capability gap. But pay attention to the years there. For 8 years, you had U.S. soldiers in dangerous places around the world without protection that we could have provided them against rockets and mortars. That's unacceptable, I would say. And it's going to be particularly problematic in the future as we're in an intense military technology race with China. And if we have similar delays in the future, we're likely to pay a higher price. And that's why for now 2.5 years, I've focused on trying to do better and help solve this problem.
If I read correctly, it appears that members of the Senate of both parties are seeking to solve this because it looks like an R&D program challenge. The U.S. government agencies, and you don't list them all, but I can imagine it's a library of agencies, need to sign off before R&D is shared. And do I read correctly that Senator Peters, Cotton, and others want to solve this in a piece of legislation?
Absolutely. There's so many headlines, right? There's undoubtedly politics in Washington is increasingly tribalistic and partisan and vitriolic. But Americans need to know that it's not all that. There are some examples where you have people, both Democrats and Republicans, working together to solve serious problems for us and our allies. And this U.S.-Israel Operations Technology Working Group is an ideal example. So you have Senator Cotton, a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. You have Senator Peters, a Democrat of Michigan, also on that committee. And more recently, Senator Rosen of Nevada, who've all worked together to try to push the Department of Defense to stand up this U.S.-Israel Ops Tech Working Group. And then also Congressman Wilson, a Republican, and now Congressman Murphy of Florida, a Democrat, are also working in the House to advance this effort. And the big idea, I laid out the problem. Here's a little bit more nuance on the problem. So you'll have a U.S. company, pick your company, Raytheon, Lockheed. You'll have an Israeli defense company. They'll talk to say, hey, we have these technologies. We want to do a joint science and technology program. We want to do a joint research, development, test, and evaluation program. And then they take that request to a patriotic, overworked, person in the Pentagon and State Department and seek permission. They're so busy. The decision, the approval, the answer doesn't come back or takes months or years or a long time. Meanwhile, Israel's getting hit by rockets from Hamas and Hezbollah, and they're saying, we can't wait. So Israel kind of goes off, marches off on their own. And when that happens, we all lose. Israel loses American innovation and economy of scale, which would lower unit costs for them because they'd order more if we work together. We lose primarily Israel's agility because there's really no better country in the world to go from idea to fielding because they have to and because they're a smaller and more agile country. So it's a lose-lose. And instead of fielding these technologies together with all the benefits that would accrue for training and joint operations, what we call interoperability, we miss that. So this working group would be a central belly button or point of contact within the massive American defense bureaucracy, where requests for joint S&T, RD-T&E programs, science and technology, research, development, test, and evaluation could be brought. And then that working group could be held accountable for results and decisions quickly by Congress. So because in this legislation is a reporting requirement, they will have to report, the status of providing approval. Now, this is not some effort to go around existing processes. All the key players will be there, people from the political military bureau at state. But it would basically be a place where you'd have intelligence-informed requirements. Hey, the Israelis, we need this. The Americans, we need this. Let's come together and do joint programs to fill these as quickly and cheaply as possible. The Israelis may use the technology in Syria or Lebanon or against Iranian terror proxies. We might use it in the Baltics or the Taiwan Strait, but in many cases, the technologies are the same, and we'd be better off working more closely together.
We have less than a minute, Brad, and I am flabbergasted that the U.S.-Israel Operations Technology Working Group didn't exist until now, if it does exist now.
Me too.
It is the year 2021. We're talking about the budget of 2022.
Yeah, so you have Israel supports us. Let's just be very clear. This is an idea that we thought up at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. We shared it with Israel. They like it. The Pentagon is working to design it and potentially stand it up. You have movement in the Senate. The Senate voted to mandate it. The House is trying to mandate it as well. You need that legislation in order to impose the congressional reporting requirement that I talked about. I'm cautiously optimistic that this is going to get stood up sooner or later. But given the severity and pace of the threats we confront, there really is no time to waste.
Brad Bowman, Senior Director, Center on Military and Political Power, Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. This is CBS Eye on the World. I'm John Batchelor.
You're listening to CBS Eye on the World with John Batchelor.
Data privacy, hacking, ransomware, and data theft have become devastating problems for businesses and individuals. Globex Data has the solution. Switzerland has the world's strictest data privacy laws, and Globex Data's Swiss-hosted secure application, spelled SEKUR, uses a proprietary technology outside of big tech, which means your data remains private and secure. Globex Data just signed 2 telecom giants to distribute its secure communication solution to over 400 million people in 30 Latin American and Asian countries. Secure is the solution for messaging and email privacy with no data or phone number mining. Secure users can message non-secure users in full privacy and security using chat by invites. Globex Data is now available in the U.S., bringing messaging and email privacy and security to all Americans. This Data Privacy Minute has been brought to you by Globex Data Limited. Stock trading symbol SWISF. Web address globexdata.com.
The proceeding may contain forward-looking statements which may not be realized.
This Labor Day, put an end to junk sleep. Right now at Mattress Firm, save up to $500 on our top-rated brands when you get a king bed for the price of a queen or a queen for a twin. Plus, get a free adjustable base when you spend $6.99 on Sealy. Or save up to 50% on hot buys from top brands like Sleepy's or Serta. With our highly trained sleep experts and our low price guarantee, you can rest assured you'll get the best bed at the best price. Unjunk your sleep. Only at Mattress Firm. Offer valid with qualifying purchase. Restrictions apply. Valid at participating locations only. For offer details, visit mattressfirm.com/sale.
Whether you're buying a new car or used one, it's a big investment, which is why you should choose Pennzoil Platinum. It helps extend the life of your engine and protect it up to 15 years or 500,000 miles, whichever comes first, guaranteed. That's because Pennzoil's base oil is made from natural gas and 99.5% free from engine clogging impurities. So for your next oil change, choose Pennzoil Platinum. The proof is in the Pennzoil. Enrollment required. Keep your receipts. Other conditions apply. See pennzoil.com/warranty for full details.